I always imagined retirement would feel like stepping out of a storm into a warm house, quiet, peaceful, full of the comforting smell of years finally paying off. I thought there would be celebration, maybe a small gathering, or at the very least, a grateful smile from my son. After all, everything I had done, from working double shifts to skipping vacations and birthdays, was for him. But the day I retired wasn't warm or peaceful. It was sharp, cold, a kind of cold that sinks past the skin and settles into the bones. I left the factory that afternoon with a cardboard box of my belongings pressed to my chest. Inside it were only the essentials, the old screwdriver my coworkers joked I'd be buried with, a few certificates for Employee of the Month, a picture of Daniel when he was 8, and a small farewell card signed by the morning shift crew. The workers clapped when I walked out for the last time, their cheers echoing across the metal walls. I had grown old inside. 45 years, Lawson, someone shouted. You finally did it. I smiled because they expected me to. And maybe because part of me believed it too. I did it. I made it. I survived. The air outside smelled different, cleaner, freer. I inhaled deeply, letting the world settle into the empty spaces where routine used to live. I imagined the life ahead, mornings with coffee, afternoons with books, evenings sitting on the porch watching sunsets with no alarm clock waiting to disturb me. A simple dream, a quiet one, but it was mine. I walked home feeling strangely taller, like the weight of decades had finally fallen away. With each step, my legs trembled, not from weakness, but from relief. I turned the last corner toward the small house I had raised Daniel in. The curtains were shut. He hadn't opened them again that morning. He rarely did. When I stepped inside, I expected him to at least look up. He didn't. He sat at the table scrolling through his phone, barely glancing at me. The house felt smaller than usual, cramped with an invisible tension that had been growing between us for years. I cleared my throat. It's done. I said softly, I'm officially retired. He didn't smile, didn't stand, didn't say congratulations. Instead, he exhaled sharply through his nose, like he had been waiting to get something off his chest. That's something, he muttered. Then he frowned, as if remembering something unpleasant. Actually, Dad, we need to talk. My heart stumbled. He still didn't look at me. He kept staring at the screen in his hand, tapping it repeatedly like whatever was on, it mattered more than this moment. What is it, Daniel? He shut off the phone and finally met my eyes. His expression was flat. Not angry, not sad, just cold. I can't afford another mouth to feed. For a moment, I didn't understand. Another mouth, my mouth. The son I raised, the boy whose school uniforms I washed at midnight, whose meals I skipped so he could eat, the young man whose college tuition I paid by trading my weekends and sleep. He was looking at me like I was a stray animal he found on the street. I tried to smile. Daniel, what do you mean? He leaned back in his chair, as if he were having a business meeting, not speaking to his father. It's simple. My salary isn't enough to support both of us. I have my own life to focus on. Bills, savings, you know. Adult responsibilities. Responsibilities. Like raising him had never been one, I gripped the handle of my box a little tighter, feeling the cardboard edges dig into my palms. You won't have to support me, I said quietly. I have my pension, and it's not enough. He cut in. We can't rely on it. You need to keep working. The words hit me like a slow, deliberate slap. I looked down at my hands that once lifted steel beams, repaired machines twice my size, held my crying child at night, built a life for him brick by brick. They were shaking now, old and tired. I whispered, Daniel, I'm tired. He shrugged as if tired was an excuse he'd heard too many times. Sorry, Dad, but you can't just sit around, so I talked to my boss. I found you a job at my company, maintenance department. You start Monday. He said it with the same tone someone might use when talking about disposing of clutter. A job, after retirement. After 45 years, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Daniel, I've worked my whole life. Well, now you'll work a little more, he replied, standing to put on his jacket. Look, you should be grateful. Jobs aren't easy to get at your age. At asterisk, your age asterisk. Like I was an item nearing expiration. My chest tightened painfully, but I swallowed the hurt like I had swallowed so many disappointments before. I see, I said softly. He grabbed his keys, already halfway out the door. Good. Just don't mess it up. And Dad. I looked at him. He didn't look back. Don't make me look bad, okay? The door closed behind him. I stood in the hallway, in the home I had built for us. Clutching my little cardboard box like it was the only thing keeping me upright. My retirement day, what should have been the beginning of peace, had turned into something else, a reminder that the world I sacrificed everything for did not owe me kindness, and sometimes neither did the people I loved most. But I smiled anyway, because sometimes dignity is the only thing a man has left to hold on to, and I would hold mine tightly, even if my own son didn't see it. The building stood taller than anything I had ever worked inside, 40. 5 stories of polished glass and ambition. It reflected the morning sun so brightly that I had to shield my eyes as I walked up the marble steps, one slow step after another. I never imagined I would be starting a new job at my age, not after retiring, not after spending most of my life in steel-toed boots and grease, stained uniforms. But here I was too old to dream, too tired to fight, and too loyal to refuse my own son. The revolving doors spun endlessly, swallowing one confident young employee after another. Every person walked briskly, tapping on phones, holding lattes, wearing clothes that probably cost more than my monthly groceries. I tugged gently at the collar of my faded shirt. Yesterday, I wore it proudly. Today, it felt out of place. Inside, the lobby looked like something out of a magazine. White floors so clean you could eat off them. Chandeliers shaped like falling stars. Glass walls where the city glittered behind them. Everything was modern, loud with silence, and far too fast for a man like me. Daniel stood near the front desk, scrolling through his phone again. He didn't smile. When he saw me, he flinched. A small, tight flinch, like he was embarrassed someone had caught him with a stray dog. "You're late," he said sharply. "Your shift starts at 8. I checked my watch. It's 7:42. Still late," he muttered. "When you start working here, timing matters." I didn't correct him. What was the point? He kept adjusting his tie, running his hands through his perfectly styled hair. He looked around as if worried someone would notice us standing together. For a moment, I wondered if I should have worn my Sunday shirt. Then I realized it wouldn't have mattered. To him, I was always going to be the old man who worked with his hands. "All right," he said finally, waving me along. "Follow me. I'll show you where you'll be working." I followed him past rows of glass offices and open workspaces buzzing with youth, laughing interns, confident managers, people with futures, goals, dreams. Their fingers danced across keyboards. Their eyes gleamed with the kind of ambition I used to see in Daniel when he was still my boy before the world got to him. A few employees glanced at me, curious. Some smiled politely. Others ignored me altogether. But a few pairs of eyes lingered with pity, with amusement, with that uncomfortable look people have when they see someone who doesn't quite belong. Daniel stopped suddenly and pointed to a closet door with a worn sign, **, maintenance and supply room, **. "This is where your equipment will be," he said. "Brooms, cleaning solutions, mops, whatever you need." He said it like he was ashamed of every word. I nodded. "I'll do my best, Daniel." His jaw tightened. "Here. Don't call me that." I blinked. "What should I call you?" "Just. Don't call me Dad. Not at work. People don't need to know." I felt something inside me shrink. "Not at work. Don't call me Dad." Words sharper than any blade. "I understand," I said quietly. He exhaled in relief, as if my silence was the only correct answer. Good. The maintenance supervisor is out today, so just find something to clean and stay out of the way. Stay out of the way. He already walked off before I could say goodbye. Hash 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 asterisk asterisk, the first task asterisk asterisk, I stood alone in the supply room for several minutes, letting the silence settle in my bones. I picked up a broom. It was lighter than the steel hammers I used to swing, but somehow heavier on my heart. I stepped out and began sweeping the main hallway. The floors were already spotless, but I swept anyway. It kept me moving. It kept me from thinking too much. As I worked, people walked by quickly, their perfume and cologne lingering long after they passed. A few nodded. One woman smiled sympathetically. Two interns whispered as they walked past, "Is that the new janitor Daniel talked about? He looks older than my grandfather." They giggled. I kept sweeping, not for them, not for Daniel, for myself. Work was the one thing I understood, the one thing that made me feel worth something. 30 minutes later, a voice startled me. "Excuse me, sir. Do you need water?" I turned to see a young woman from HR, holding out a bottle with a gentle smile. She looked to be about Daniel's age, but her eyes held a warmth he seemed to have forgotten. "Oh," I said, smiling despite myself. "No, thank you, I'm all right. You must be Mr. Lawson," she continued, "Daniel's father." I hesitated. "Yes, he didn't tell me you were starting today. He just said you needed the job." I forced a small nod. "I did, or he thought I did." She studied me kindly. "Well, welcome. If you need anything, my office is right down the hall." "Thank you," I said, feeling a small flicker of comfort. "You're very kind," she smiled. "Not a problem. And don't let the atmosphere overwhelm you. This place is a jungle. A jungle." She wasn't wrong. Hash 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 asterisk asterisk, the boss notices asterisk asterisk around noon. I moved to the executive wing, a hallway of framed awards and glossy doors. I had just bent down to pick up a stray piece of paper when a sharp voice snapped. "Why is maintenance in this corridor without clearance?" I straightened slowly, turning around. A tall man stood behind me, older than the employees, but younger than me, silver hair, dark suit, eyes that missed nothing. I recognized him instantly from the company newsletter images Daniel had shown me once. Asterisk asterisk James Carter. "CEO, asterisk asterisk I didn't mean to disturb anything." I stammered. "I was just cleaning. I can go elsewhere." He studied me closely, head tilted. His eyes softened with recognition, or memory. "You're Daniel Lawson's father, aren't you?" My stomach twisted. Is that how everyone would see me here? Not as a worker, not as a man, just as Daniel's inconvenient father? "Yes," I said quietly, "I am." He didn't look annoyed. He looked thoughtful. "You look familiar," he murmured, stepping closer. "Have we met before?" "I don't think so," I said. "This is my first day here." He studied my face with a frown, then snapped his fingers. "Wait, the Riverside plant, the engineering division, 20 years ago. You're the Lawson who redesigned the coolant system, aren't you?" I froze. Few people remembered that. Even Daniel barely listened when I tried to tell him. "You remember that?" I asked softly. Mr. Carter's eyes grew warm. "You saved that plant from shutting down. Your design kept over 300 workers employed. My own father was one of them." I didn't know what to say. Praise wasn't something I was used to, certainly, not from men like him. "You should have told someone you were coming," he said. "We owe you more respect than this." Respect. It had been a long time since anyone used that word around me. Before I could respond, he said, "Come with me to my office. I want to talk." And for the first time since I stepped into that building, I didn't feel old. I didn't feel out of place. I felt seen. Mr. Carter's office was nothing like the rest of the building. It wasn't loud with glass or metal, or the sterile shine that filled the hallways. It felt lived in warm wooden walls, shelves lined with framed photos of factory floors, smiling employees, and handshakes with workers in dusty uniforms. It reminded me of the life I lived before everything became digital, fast, and cold. He motioned to a chair across from his desk. "Please, sit." I lowered myself into the leather seat, feeling strangely out of place, like a grandfather who had wandered into a world built for people younger, smarter, more relevant than him. But Mr. Carter's eyes didn't carry the judgment I feared. Instead, they held a reluctant curiosity. "You were an engineer for 45 years, he said, opening a file on his desk. "Why didn't Daniel tell us that?" I hesitated. "He doesn't really ask about my past." "Your son never asked you?" "No," I said softly. "He was always busy." I didn't want to burden him with stories. "Mr. Carter gave a small, humorless laugh. "Stories, Mr. Lawson. Your career helped stabilize 2 major plants. This company owes men like you more than a few stories." My throat tightened. I wasn't used to praise, especially not in this building, especially not today. He leaned forward. "Tell me something. Why are you working here? You're retired." The question was simple, but the answer stuck like a stone in my throat. I needed the work. He raised an eyebrow. Needed. There was something heavier behind the way he said it. I took a deep breath. My son insisted. Insisted. I nodded once, then looked down at my hands. Old, scarred hands that once made my son feel safe and protected. He said he couldn't afford to keep supporting me. I whispered. He said I shouldn't just sit at home, that I needed to stay useful. "Mr. Carter's jaw tightened subtly. "He told you that you were a burden." I didn't answer. Silence was enough. He leaned back in his chair, studying me in a way that made me feel seen and broken at the same time. "Mr. Lawson, did you know your son is one of my lowest performing managers?" The words hit me harder than I expected. "I didn't," I said quietly. "He always talked about big achievements, promotions, important meetings. None of those things are true, Mr. Carter said. "In fact, he's been on thin ice for months." I blinked. "Months longer," he said, opening a drawer. "But I kept him because I had heard his father was a legend in the old plants. I assumed some of your work ethic had passed on to him." His tone made it clear it hadn't. He slid a thin folder across the desk toward me. "His behavior has been concerning," he said. "You deserve to see this." I hesitated before opening it. Inside were reports, pages and pages of them. Employee complaints of project delays caused by negligence, missed deadlines, inappropriate comments in the workplace, falsified reports, and worst of all, irregularities in budget allocations. Every line sliced deeper than the last. I felt like I was reading the report of a stranger, not my son. Not the boy I raised, not the child who used to sit on my shoulders and call me a hero. Mr. Carter's voice softened. "I'm telling you all of this because you deserve the truth, and because you are the last person I want to hurt in this process." I swallowed hard. "Process," he exhaled. "Mr. Lawson, Daniel has been mishandling company funds. We have proof. He's redirected resources from his team to claim bonuses he didn't earn." My chest tightened painfully. I gripped the folder to steady my shaking hands. "Art, are you firing him?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Yes," Mr. Carter said. "I plan to do it this week, but now," he paused, "now that I've met you, I want to handle this carefully." The room felt suddenly too small, too bright. I stared at my hands again. "I worked my whole life." I whispered. "I did everything I could to raise him right. I don't know where I went wrong." Mr. Carter shook his head. "This isn't your failure." I wanted to believe him, but a father's heart always wonders if he should have done more. Then Mr. Carter picked up his phone. "I need your son in my office, immediately," he said to his assistant. He looked at me. "You should stay." I stiffened. I don't want to make this harder for him. "It's already hard, Mr. Carter said gently, "but maybe this will make him understand." Minutes passed in thick silence before the door opened. Daniel walked in, irritated. "Sir, I was in the middle of something." He froze when he saw me. "Dad, what are you doing here?" His voice carried accusation, not surprise. Mr. Carter's tone was calm but unyielding. "Daniel, sit down." Daniel didn't. He crossed his arms instead. "What's going on?" Mr. Carter slid the file across the desk. "You know exactly what's going on." Daniel barely looked at the papers before snapping. "This is ridiculous. I was going to fix those. It's not a big deal. Stealing company resources is not something you fix, Mr. Carter said sharply. Daniel's face turned pale. "You can't be serious." "I am, Mr. Carter replied. "You are terminated, effective immediately." Daniel staggered back a step, like the words had struck him physically. "What? You're firing me? After everything I've done for this company?" Mr. Carter didn't blink. "Everything you've done for this company has been detrimental." Daniel turned to me, fury burning in his eyes. "This is your fault," he hissed. "You came here and embarrassed me. You talked to him, didn't you? You told him to fire me." "Daniel," I said softly, "I didn't even know." "Stop lying," he shouted. "You wanted this. You've always resented me." The words punched the air from my lungs. "Son," I whispered, "I only wanted to work. I didn't want to cause trouble. You ruined everything," he snapped, grabbing his jacket. "I hope you're proud of yourself." He slammed the door as he left. The sound echoed through the room long after he was gone. I sat motionless, staring at the floor, not because of what he said, but because he meant it, because he believed it. Mr. Carter spoke gently. "I'm sorry you had to witness that." I wiped a hand across my face. "It's not your fault. Maybe this was long overdue." He stood and rested a hand on my shoulder. "You deserved better than how he treated you, and if you're willing, I'd like to offer you a position with us, something worthy of your experience." I looked up at him, stunned. "Mr. Carter, I'm just an old man." "No," he said firmly. "You are the kind of worker this company was built on, and we need men like you now more than ever." For a moment I couldn't speak. I had walked into that building as a burden. I sat in that office as a father. But somehow I was leaving as a man with value again. And behind the sorrow, behind the disappointment, a quiet sense of justice settled in my chest. Not revenge, not triumph, just truth, and the truth would set both of us free, one way or another. When Daniel's footsteps faded down the hallway, the silence he left behind was heavier than his anger. He hadn't just stormed out of an office. He had walked away from the final thread that connected us. I sat there, feeling the years fold over me like a coat I didn't remember putting on. The room felt too big, too quiet, too full of a father's failures. Mr. Carter didn't speak at first. He let the quiet settle not like a weight, but like the first moment after a storm, when the world decides whether it will rebuild or remain broken. "Mr. Lawson," he said gently, "stand for a moment." I stood, slow and stiff, still staring at the door Daniel had walked through. Mr. Carter circled his desk, stopping in front of me. A firm yet respectful hand landed on my shoulder. "Your son's choices are his own," he said, "but yours deserve recognition. Recognition, a word I hadn't heard directed at me in decades. You built a career with your hands," he continued. "Most men build lives from concrete and steel, but you built a life from sacrifice." My throat tightened. "I can't erase what your son said," he said, "but I can give you back something he tried to take." I frowned softly. "And what is that, dignity?" He walked to his desk, pulled out a sealed envelope, and handed it to me. "This is an offer," he explained. "A consulting position part. Time, generous pay, flexible hours. You'll be advising our engineering team on systems you once mastered." My breath caught. "Sir, you deserve to work if you want to," he said, "not because someone forced you to." His words were the sweetest justice I had felt in years. "Not revenge, not anger, just dignity," returned quietly and respectfully. I nodded slowly. "Thank you truly." He gave a small, warm smile. "No, thank you." ****, walking out a different man ***. I left his office with the envelope tucked carefully under my arm. As I walked through the hallways, the workers who had laughed earlier didn't laugh now. Some nodded. Some smiled. Some stepped aside respectfully. Maybe they had heard. Maybe they hadn't, but the strange thing was it didn't matter anymore. I reached the lobby where Daniel had first told me not to call him son. The marble floors shimmered under the afternoon light, and for a moment I saw two ghosts standing there, me, clutching a worn shirt and a hopeful smile, and him avoiding my eyes. I stood there letting the memory pass through me slowly, like grief. Then I stepped outside into the warm air. The world felt bigger, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had room inside my own chest to breathe. Hash 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 asterisk asterisk, the call asterisk asterisk, I reached home by dusk. The orange sky brushed the rooftops like a blessing, softening everything it touched. I sat on the porch, listening to the quiet hum of life settling for the night. Then my phone vibrated. Asterisk asterisk Daniel. Asterisk asterisk I stared at the screen for a long time. Too long. Half of me expected more anger, more blame, more accusations. But when I answered, there was only silence on the other end, then a shaking breath. Dad. His voice didn't sound like a manager. Not a grown man, not even a teenager. It was the voice of a boy, my boy, who used to tug on my sleeve and tell me he wanted to be just like me. I closed my eyes. I'm here. I messed up, he whispered. I messed everything up. I didn't say I knew. I didn't say he hurt me. I didn't say he had crushed me with words he would never remember, and I would never forget. I just listened. I shouldn't have talked to you that way, he choked out. I shouldn't have treated you like a burden. Finally I spoke. Soft, measured, true. Son, I never wanted anything from you except respect. Not money, not support, just a humanity. A quiet sob broke through the line. It shattered something in me, but it also repaired something else. I'm sorry. His voice cracked. I really am. I inhaled slowly. Forgiveness is heavy, but carrying anger is heavier. Come home. I whispered. We'll talk. The line stayed silent for a moment. Then he breathed. Okay. Hash 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 asterisk asterisk soft justice asterisk asterisk. He didn't arrive that night. Or the next. But a few days later, I heard footsteps on the porch, hesitant and slow. When I opened the door, Daniel stood there, eyes red, shoulders slumped, pride broken. But he had come. He didn't speak, not at first. He stepped forward and wrapped his arms around me, trembling like the little boy who used to fear thunderstorms. And I held him not because he deserved it, but because love isn't a transaction. He pulled back, tears streaking his cheeks. I lost my job, he whispered. I don't know what to do. You start over, I said softly, like men do. He nodded, burying his face in his hands. I didn't tell him about the new job Mr. Carter had offered me, not yet. That wasn't today's lesson. Today's lesson was softer, quieter, and far more important. A father's love doesn't end because a son fails. But a son learns humility only when he faces the consequences of his own actions. That was the sweet revenge, not his suffering. Not his tears, but the truth finally reaching him. The truth he had been running from for years. The truth that a father's worth doesn't vanish with age, retirement, or wrinkles. Respect is earned, but dignity is inherent. Hash 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 asterisk asterisk. The final scene asterisk asterisk later that night. Long after Daniel fell asleep on the couch like he used to when he was little. I sat on the porch again with the envelope from Mr. Carter. I opened it slowly. Inside was the job offer and something else, a handwritten note, asterisk asterisk, for the man who deserved better. Your son may have failed us, but you never did. Welcome home. James Carter asterisk asterisk, I smiled, a soft, real smile, and folded the letter close to my heart. Sweet revenge. Soft justice, a father's quiet victory, not because I destroyed my son, but because I didn't let him destroy me. And in the end, that was more than enough.